There are two big theories that are discussed quite often when trying to validate the ancient astronaut hypothesis presented in the Ancient Alien series on the History Channel. I'm of course talking about this pamphlet from the 16th century depicting battles in the sky by a number of crosses and spheres. And then there's the assertion that extraterrestrials helped the ancient Egyptians build the Great Pyramids. In this video, I will go through the claims and then provide reasonable doubt to both of these theories. On the morning of April 14, 1561, in Nuremberg, Germany, an alleged celestial event took place in the sky. Alleged witnesses observed a frightening apparition involving the sun, which displayed blood-red semicircular arcs and numerous red globes and crosses. These celestial bodies engaged in prolonged conflict, flying back and forth for over an hour. Eventually some fell from the sun to the earth with immense smoke. Following this, a long and thick black sphere appeared, pointing east to west. The author, Hans Glaser, talks about the signs as potential messages from God, urging repentance and gratitude. Hans further claims that people often disregard or mock these signs, potentially risking God's punishment. Hans encourages people to heed these warnings, mend their lives, and seek mercy to avoid divine wrath. Another similar event allegedly happened in 1566 in Basel, Switzerland. In this publication, there are many spheres coming out of the sun, with many that are darkly colored, and with a few that are lightly colored. According to the broadsheet authors, the celestial phenomenon are interpreted as a divine omen, and are calls for repentance and prayer for help against the Turks. So those are some very interesting pamphlets. If I did not have a curious eye and was watching Ancient Aliens uncritically, I might be convinced that some sort of supernatural or extraterrestrial event has occurred. And some skeptics claim that the Nuremberg event was either a sundog or some aurora borealis / northern lights. Now, funnily enough, there are some of these phenomena that were published that do fit what looks like a sundog. However, that does not seem to account for most of these published manuscripts. Upon further research, it seems that most of these are simply hoaxes. According to Dominic Landwehr, a writer for an article on the website of the Swiss National Museum, the 16th century was full of these type of manuscripts, depicting some extraordinary events. For example, did you know that there was a similar pamphlet from 1556 in Nuremberg, Germany? There was a halo surrounding the sun. Yes, another pamphlet from the same Nuremberg, Germany. And what about a story from 1550 in Carinthia, Austria, in which allegedly grain used to make bread rained down from the skies? But that also seems to have happened in Weimar and Auerstadt, Germany, in another pamphlet. That also seems to have occurred in other German cities as well, in addition to Austria. So what the heck is going on here? And remember the first pamphlet, the Nuremberg one, that the Ancient Aliens theorists are obsessed with? Well, there are more pamphlets from that author, Hans Glaser. Here's one from 1554 over Waldeck Castle near Chemnath, depicting knights battling in the sky. Hans Glaser interprets this as a sign from God for the Last Judgment. And here's another one done by Hans Glaser in Dinkelspiel on May 26, 1554, described as rain that is the color of blood. It was apparently interpreted as a sign of misfortune in war. Final prayer at the bottom implores God's mercy and grace. And there's many other ones. One such pamphlet depicted on March 2nd, 1561, seen over the city of Nuremberg. The moon is depicted as a so-called cross of light, a special form of halo. And the text connects this apparition with a warning from God and calls to a repentant life. Here's one such broadsheet that is dated February 1564 by Hans Zimmermann. This one, appearing over Leipzig, was interpreted as an omen for the Last Judgment as well. Here's another one dated December 28, 1560 by George Merkel near the city of Forchheim, Germany. And again, this phenomenon is also interpreted as a warning from God. Now there's many more of these broadsheet texts printed throughout the 16th century, but I wanted to talk about one more in particular because I had no idea this guy was connected with this stuff at all. So apparently Nostradamus was responsible for one of these texts. Yeah, that Nostradamus. The Nostradamus that is supposedly responsible for forecasting all these apocalyptic events. And now I see why. In Ceylon, on March 10, 1554, there's a depiction of the moon in the shape of a crescent with a human face, which draws a glowing trail of flames from which an arrowhead shoots out. It's supposedly interpreted as an omen of various catastrophes. Now, looking through all these different broadsheets, the only thing I can conclude is that either there just happened to be so many supernatural-esque phenomenon happened during the 16th century in Europe, or the more likely conclusion that this is a whole slew of hoaxes being motivated by religious calls to action. And now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the origins of the ancient alien/ancient astronaut theory. This begins with The Chariot of the Gods by Erich von Däniken, published first in 1968. In his book, he claims the Great Pyramids, Stonehenge, and the statues on Easter Island are all a result of extraterrestrial intervention. While I cannot conclusively debunk all of the claims, and honestly, it's just not possible to debunk every wild claim out there, I can provide proof that some of these claims are just not even original, and they're straight out of science fiction. Erich von Däniken isn't even the first writer to supposedly present these theories as factual. That was done by French authors Louis Pauwels and Jacques Bergier in their book The Morning of the Magicians, published originally in French in 1960 and later published in English in 1964. However, this book is not solely focused on extraterrestrial contact with humans, but it also includes occultism, cryptohistory, the paranormal, and conspiracies. In this book, they delve into the possibility that aliens have influenced ancient civilizations in the past, but they aren't even the originators of that idea either. For example, in the short story At the Mountains of Madness, published in 1936 by H.P. Lovecraft, there's a part in the story where a hidden ancient civilization, built by extraterrestrials on Earth, has been discovered in the mountains of Antarctica. And there's a story that goes even further back. The science fiction story by the name of Edison's Conquest of Mars by Garrett P. Surface, published in 1898, a whopping 6 decades before the Morning of the Magicians. The main plot of this story is Thomas Edison, the famous inventor, leads a group of scientists to pursue the creation of new weapons and defense systems to protect Earth. Throughout the story, we meet different types of alien life on Mars and Ceres, and that later Edison and his group of comrades do battle with. Later in the story, it is then further revealed that the Martian aliens were part of the construction of the Great Pyramids and Sphinx in Egypt during an initial raid on Earth 9,000 years ago. But again, this isn't even the first time that hoaxers have plagiarized science fiction. In my other video about the Roswell incident, I discussed the fact that stories about airships were routinely being published in the Frank Reed Jr. pulp magazines, as well as the fictional story Rover the Conqueror by Jules Verne. And then later, a whole slew of hoaxes surrounding mysterious airships appeared all across the United States. While it's not an exact parallel, there are similarities in a sense that a piece of science fiction was published, which then followed some sort of hoax that copied that idea and presented itself as fact. And I should also point out that just because ancient civilizations developed architecture, art, and some primitive technology doesn't mean they are talking to aliens. In conclusion, the historical accounts of the celestial phenomenon documented in various pamphlets in the 16th century present a perplexing narrative. These events can be interpreted as religious omens or warnings. However, in my opinion, it is clear that these are far more likely to be hoaxes rather than genuine supernatural or extraterrestrial phenomenon, due to the sheer number of these extraordinary phenomenon. Moreover, the origins of the ancient astronaut theory, popularized by authors like Erich von Däniken, appear to be rooted in earlier works of science fiction, rather than credible historical evidence. Lastly, I know some people would rather have me directly debunk the building of the Great Pyramids, but there's already evidence of how the ancient Egyptians could possibly have done this. Essentially though, no serious academic in the field of Egyptology or archaeology agrees with any type of ancient alien theory. Furthermore, the burden of proof to conclusively prove aliens built the pyramids should be on people like Däniken, not anyone else. And since there's no reliable way for him to do that, I'm betting on the people of Earth. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. Thanks.